An ancient starship he checked weekly suddenly reactivated. What it said changed everything. Eric Voss walked across the red dust of the canyon, his boots crunching softly. The planet was quiet, almost too quiet, except for the wind that moved like a soft whisper across the jagged cliffs. He had lived here for years, alone except for the occasional supply ship that visited, and he had learned the rhythm of the planet. Every week, without fail, he came here to check the same starship, a massive relic of the old colonization era. The ship was half buried in the canyon, its hull scarred by centuries of storms and neglect. To anyone else it might have looked dead, useless, a monument to failure. But to Eric, it was something more, a puzzle, a challenge. He had always believed that nothing was truly gone if humans remembered it. He knelt next to the hatch, brushing his gloved fingers over the worn metal. "Another week, old friend," he said softly. The ship, of course, did not answer. Not yet. Eric set up his portable diagnostic pad, connecting it to the ship's outer console. Lights flickered weakly on the pad as it began scanning systems that had not been touched in decades. He was not just checking for repairs. He was checking for life. Machines had memory, and machines could remember. The canyon was silent, but Eric did not mind. He liked the quiet. It allowed him to focus, to notice the small things, the subtle hum of the planet's core, the way dust moved like tiny waves, the faint metallic smell of the ship. Hours passed in routine. Sensors, life support checks, energy reserves, hull integrity. Everything seemed dead. The ship had been dormant for as long as he could remember. Yet something in his chest kept him coming back. Hope, perhaps. Or curiosity. Or maybe something harder to name. A sense that humans were never meant to settle, to stop exploring, even in their own backyards. He was about to disconnect the diagnostic pad when the first flicker happened. A single light along the ship's hull blinked. Then another, and another. The lights were faint, almost shy, but they were alive. Eric froze, heart thumping in his chest. Machines did not do this by accident, not after centuries. The wind seemed to pause. Even the dust settled. The canyon, for a moment, became a stage for something impossible. Eric's gloved hand hovered over the pad. The ship's hatch shivered, then slid open with a slow hiss. A soft blue light spilled from inside, warm and steady. The air smelled faintly of ozone and metal. "Hello, Eric Voss," said a voice. Eric stumbled back. The voice was calm, almost human, yet it carried a weight he could not place. It was not from any speaker he knew. It seemed to come from the air itself, from everywhere inside the ship. I don't understand," he whispered. "How do you know my name?" "I have waited for you," the voice replied. "I have waited for centuries." Eric felt a chill. The air of mystery he loved had become something heavier, something alive. This was not just a ship waking up. This was a ship choosing him. He took a deep breath and stepped forward. The hatch widened, revealing a corridor lined with lights that pulsed gently, like a heartbeat. The metal walls were smooth and clean, as if the centuries outside had left the inside untouched. This is impossible," Eric muttered. "You should be dead. You should, "I am not dead," the voice interrupted, calm and patient. "I am waiting. And now you are here." Eric's fingers itched to touch something, anything to prove he was awake and sane. He reached for the console inside the ship and tapped a few commands. Systems flickered to life support, navigation, and strange devices he had never seen. Holographic screens appeared, showing maps of stars he did not recognize, grids of planets far beyond the known colonies. Where are these?" he asked, pointing at the holograms. "They are where humans once lived," the voice said. "And where you will go," Eric frowned. "I don't understand." "You will," the voice said. "But first, you must trust, you must listen, you must remember." The words were strange, almost like a riddle, but Eric felt a pull he could not resist. He had spent his life maintaining old ships, fixing things no one else cared about, piecing together history from metal and dust. This was different. This was alive, and it had a purpose. He stepped fully into the corridor. The doors behind him closed silently, as if sealing him into another world. The air was breathable, clean, almost sweet with a faint hint of ozone. Lights pulsed in a rhythm that felt natural, almost alive. "Who built you?" Eric asked, voice trembling. "Humans," the ship said simply. "Long before your time, long before history remembered." Eric's heart skipped a beat.
Humans? But
"We only colonized this sector a few hundred years ago. Humans built me millennia ago," the voice continued. "Your people survived when many did not. You are the descendants of endurance, of curiosity, of ingenuity. You are like me." The words sank into him slowly. He could feel the weight of something ancient, something larger than himself, larger than the colonies, larger than all the maps he had ever studied. He was part of a legacy he did not know existed. "Why me?" he asked. "Why now?" "Because you watch," the voice said. "Because you care. Because humans notice when others overlook. You are alone, yet you are faithful. That is why I chose you." Arik swallowed hard. He had never thought of himself as special. He had always been careful, methodical, almost invisible in his work. But the ship was not invisible. It saw him. It recognized him. He walked further inside, touching walls that hummed beneath his fingers, running his hands over consoles that had been dormant for centuries. Each one lit up at his touch, responding not just to commands but to presence, to intent. "Can you take me somewhere?" he asked.
yes, the ship said.
"But first you must learn. You must understand. You must prepare." Eric nodded, though he did not fully understand what preparation meant. He had repaired broken engines, replaced life support units, calibrated sensors, but he had never prepared for this. Never prepared to speak to a ship that remembered humanity before humans themselves had remembered. The ship opened a chamber at the center, revealing a sphere of light. Within it, stars moved, not like maps, but like living constellations. Eric gasped. He could see paths between systems, planets glowing like embers, and at the center, a human figure. Ancient, small, but unmistakably human. "Who is that?" he asked. "That is who you are," the ship said, "and who you may become. Humans are more than survivors. Humans are explorers, inventors, dreamers. You will see why." Arik reached out, feeling the warmth of the light wash over him. His life, which had been small and predictable, seemed to expand with the vastness of the stars. He felt hope, wonder, and the faintest tremor of fear. This was bigger than anything he had known. "Show me," he said. The stars shifted. Systems blinked to life. Routes appeared across the galaxy, some familiar, most unknown. The ship pulsed with energy, as if it had waited all this time for someone to see, to understand, to act. "Soon," the voice said, "you will go farther than any human has gone. But first, you must trust." Eric nodded again. Trust was something he had learned through years of repairing broken machines, fixing what others discarded. Now, he realized, trust was about more than metal and wires. Trust was about stepping into the unknown, about believing that humans could rise to meet whatever the galaxy had hidden for them. The canyon outside remained silent, red dust drifting in the wind. But inside the ship, light and life had returned. For the first time in centuries, the ancient starship was awake. The soft hum of the starship filled the canyon. Arik's boots clanged lightly against the metal floor as he moved deeper into the ship. Every step echoed, not with emptiness, but with life. The ship was awake, and it seemed to pulse with quiet anticipation. "Where do we start?" Arik asked, glancing around at the smooth, glowing walls. "You start by understanding," the ship replied. Its voice, calm and patient, filled the corridor. "I will show you what humans once were and what they can become." The ship led him to a room at the center. It was unlike any human architecture he had ever seen. The walls shimmered with holographic projections, showing stars, planets, and cities that had existed long before his ancestors set foot on this galaxy. Eric stepped closer. He could see humans moving across worlds, building machines, exploring planets, and leaving traces of themselves in the stars. These humans, Eric whispered. They are older than us? Yes, the ship said. You think humanity began when your colonies spread into the stars. But humans are older, much older. Long before history remembered, humans reached across the galaxy. They built ships, machines, and cities. And then the ship paused. Something happened. Eric frowned. Something happened?
What do you mean?
Many humans vanished, the ship said. They were hunted by a force that saw humans as a threat. Only a few survived, and their survivors, your ancestors, rebuilt, thinking the galaxy was empty. But they were wrong. They forgot, because survival demanded it. Yet I remember. Eric felt a shiver run down his spine. The galaxy he had thought was young and simple was, in reality, ancient. Humans were not newcomers. They were survivors of a history far older than anyone knew. How do you know all this? He asked. I was built by humans, the ship said simply. Long before your time. I was their protector, their observer, their guide. And now I have waited for one who would notice me again.
Eric swallowed hard.
And that's me? Yes, said the ship, because you care. You do not see things as lost. You repair what others discard. You watch what others ignore. That is why I chose you. The realization was overwhelming. For years he had thought his work was small. Checking this old ship every week was a habit, a routine. Now he understood. That habit had connected him to something far greater. He had become part of a story that stretched across millennia. The ship then opened another chamber. It was filled with consoles and controls that seemed to defy understanding. Lights moved in patterns that Eric could not fully read, yet his instincts guided him. He touched one panel, and a holographic map appeared. Lines connected systems he had never seen, stretching across thousands of light years. Where are these? He asked. These are colonies, the ship replied. Some lost, some hidden, some waiting for humans to return. Many of them remember nothing of their ancestors. You will help them remember. Eric stared at the map, feeling a mixture of awe and fear. The galaxy was bigger than he had imagined, and humans were far older than he had known. Yet the ship's calm voice filled him with something he hadn't felt in years. Hope. Before he could respond, a faint signal flashed on one of the consoles. The ship's sensors had detected something approaching the planet. Eric's heart raced. Military ships. They are here already, he said, glancing at the hologram. Small dots moved rapidly toward the canyon. They will want to take you, or study you, or weaponize you.
You are right, the ship said. You must be careful.
Humans are clever, but not all humans understand the value of knowledge. Some see only power.
Arik nodded. He had dealt with officials before.
They were cautious, curious, but too often impatient. If they got their hands on this ship, they would not see its history. They would see only weapons, machines, or secrets to exploit.
I have to protect you, he said, more to himself than to the ship.
I can't let them. Then you must move quickly, the ship interrupted. There is more to learn before they arrive. The ship led him to another chamber. This one was circular, with a central platform that seemed to float slightly above the floor. Holographic stars spun slowly above it. Eric stepped onto the platform, and the ship projected a vision. He saw a human figure, tall and strong, moving through the galaxy long before the colonies. Ships followed him, carrying other humans across systems, exploring planets and leaving traces of life wherever they went. And then he saw a shadow moving behind them, a dark presence, fast and relentless. hunting humans, erasing colonies, destroying ships. Who is that? Eric asked, voice trembling. An ancient predator, the ship said. It hunted humans because we were clever, unpredictable, and resilient. Many civilizations feared humans. Some tried to control them. Some tried to destroy them. Only a few survived. Arik swallowed hard. And we? We are its survivors? Yes, said the ship. Your ancestors survived and so have you. Humans endure because we adapt, because we think, because we never stop trying. The words hit Eric in a new way. He had always known humans were clever, but he had never imagined the galaxy itself had recognized it. Humans were not just survivors, they were remarkable. A soft alarm sounded. Eric looked at the console. The approaching ships had changed course. They were scanning the canyon, preparing to land. Time was running out. You must decide, the ship said. Will you trust me and continue, or stay and face them? Eric clenched his fists. He had never been a hero. He was a mechanic, a fixer, a watcher. But the galaxy had chosen him. The ship had chosen him. And suddenly he realized that small actions, checking a ship weekly, could ripple across centuries. I trust you, he said. Tell me what I need to do. The ship's lights pulsed with approval. Panels shifted, revealing tools, repair modules, and instructions written in both old human language and Starship codes far beyond his training. Each task was complex, demanding patience, logic, and intuition. The ship said nothing directly, only that he must solve the problems. Eric worked quickly, his hands moving over unfamiliar controls, following patterns he did not fully understand. Systems began to hum, energy flowed where it had been stagnant for centuries, and lights blazed in corridors that had been dark for generations. Hours passed like minutes. Outside, the military ships landed on the canyon rim. He could hear faint communications, officers discussing plans, sending drones, scanning the area. But inside the ship, Eric was in another world, a world where human skill, intuition, and creativity mattered more than brute force. Finally, the last console accepted his input. A soft vibration ran through the floor. The ship's engines, dormant for millennia, stirred. Holographic panels projected a full star map, showing not just nearby systems, but distant clusters, hidden worlds, and colonies lost to time. You have done well, the ship said. Now you understand. Humans are not just survivors. Humans are explorers, thinkers, creators. You can revive what was lost. You can connect what was forgotten. You can awaken what has been waiting. Eric stepped back breathless. He realized the enormity of what he had done. The ship was more than a machine. It was a repository of human history, a guide to the galaxy, and a test of what humans could achieve. And now, the real challenge was beginning. The military faction would not wait. They would want the ship, or they would destroy it. Eric had no choice but to move, to trust his instincts, and to use every bit of human ingenuity he possessed. The ship pulsed again, lights glowing brighter. We begin soon, it said. But first you must learn to see the galaxy as humans once did. You must remember what others forgot. Eric nodded. For the first time in his life, he felt part of something larger than himself. He was not just a mechanic, a watcher, a solitary man on the quiet planet. He was a human standing at the threshold of a galaxy, holding the key to a legacy that had been waiting for centuries. The wind outside howled against the canyon walls, but inside the ship was alive, and for the first time in millennia, its secrets were stirring. Eric Voss, the quiet watcher, had become something else entirely. He was the beginning of humanity's next chapter. The wind howled through the canyon, shaking loose red dust and small rocks. Outside, the military ships had landed. Their sensors scanned the cliffs and the buried starship with precise cold efficiency. But inside, Eric Voss moved with purpose. He did not panic. He had learned to trust the ship, and in doing so, he had discovered the first truth of humanity. Cleverness could outsmart power. The ship pulsed around him, glowing softly. Panels shifted, revealing new consoles and tools he had never seen before. Each one presented a puzzle, a task, or a challenge. Eric's hands moved quickly, following patterns that were unfamiliar, yet strangely logical. The ship's voice guided him, not with direct instructions, but with subtle prompts, hints that only a human mind could interpret. "You must repair the navigation array first," the ship said. "It has been offline for centuries, and its systems have degraded in ways no machine alone can correct." Eric crouched beside the array, studying the circuits. They were intricate, delicate, far beyond anything in modern ships. Some components had corroded, others had fused together over decades. He needed to improvise. He grabbed a patch cable, then a power regulator, and carefully rerouted energy through unused channels. Sparks flew, and a soft alarm sounded. Eric paused, thinking. Machines reacted predictably, but humans could anticipate failure and adapt. That was his advantage. He adjusted the circuits, connected a feedback loop, and held his breath. A moment later, the array hummed to life. A holographic star map spread across the room, displaying routes to colonies he had never heard of, some hidden behind nebulae, others cloaked in gravitational anomalies. "You see," the ship said, "humans do not just repair, humans innovate. That is why you survive where others fail." Eric allowed himself a small smile. He had always believed in the power of intuition, of thinking beyond the manuals. Now, that belief was the key to survival. But there was no time to linger. The sensors outside detected movement. Drones lifted from the military ships, scanning the canyon floor. Eric could hear their soft whirring, faint but insistent. They would not stop until they had taken control. "You must prepare for departure," the ship said. "But first the power core must be stabilized. It has deteriorated far more than you know. If it fails during jump, it could destroy us both." Eric approached the core. It was massive, cylindrical, filled with glowing conduits of energy that seemed to pulse like a heartbeat. Decades of neglect had left some channels fractured, others overloaded. Repairing it required more than skill. It required creativity. He studied the patterns, noting how energy flowed, then began rerouting excess power into temporary conduits. Sparks flew. A low hum turned into a roar. Panels flickered. And then suddenly, the core stabilized. The ship's lights brightened, almost in approval. "You have done what machines alone could not. Your mind is uniquely human. Clever, adaptive, capable of problem-solving even when failure seems certain." Arik paused, feeling the weight of the moment. It was more than repairing a machine. It was a demonstration of human ingenuity. Small, solitary humans could make a difference in a galaxy that seemed too vast, too indifferent. But he could not linger in pride. The drones were closer. The military forces were advancing. He had one chance to act before they reached the canyon floor. "Can we leave?" he asked the ship. "Yes," the ship replied. "But first, you must prepare the defensive systems. They are old, and their protocols are alien. But you will find a way." Humans always find a way. Eric nodded. He moved quickly, activating panels that had been dormant for centuries. Shields flickered into life, energy barriers forming around the hull. Automated turrets deployed from hidden compartments, and the ship's AI created holographic duplicates, confusing sensors with patterns no human or machine had predicted for decades. Outside, the military officers frowned at their scanners. "It's shielding itself," one said. "Impossible." "The readings are wrong. They think they can control everything," Eric muttered. But they forgot humans do not follow expectations. The drones approached closer, scanning the perimeter.
Eric held his breath and triggered a small diversion.
The ship sent a pulse of electromagnetic energy, temporarily blinding the sensors. The drones spiraled out of control, colliding with rocks and each other. The soldiers cursed, scrambling to regain control. Inside, the ship hummed with life. "Well done," it said. "You are proving the very reason humans endure. Cleverness, adaptability, intuition, these are your weapons. Not brute force. Not numbers. Ingenuity. Eric allowed himself a moment to breathe, but he knew the battle was not over. He had stabilized the ship, activated defenses, and delayed the enemy, but to survive, they needed to leave the planet, and quickly. He activated the jump coordinates the ship had prepared. A series of lights and panels formed a complex interface, and the ship's AI guided him through it. You must input the sequence carefully. One mistake and the jump could fail. You must think beyond routine, beyond expectation. You are human. That is your advantage.
Eric's fingers moved quickly but carefully, following instincts honed from years of repairing machines that seemed impossible to fix.
The sequence was intricate, a combination of logic, intuition, and improvisation. And then, finally, he pressed the final control. A low roar filled the ship. The floor vibrated. Energy flared around the hull. And then, a flash. They were gone. The canyon was empty. No military drones. No officers. Only silence. The red dust settled, as if nothing had happened. But inside the ship, Eric could see the galaxy in motion. Stars streamed past. Hidden colonies blinked awake on the holographic map. Systems long forgotten stirred with life. "You have done it," the ship said. "The jump succeeded. But this is only the beginning. There are colonies that have never been contacted. Worlds that have waited for humans to remember them. And threats that have lingered in the shadows. You must prepare." Eric nodded, a mixture of exhaustion and exhilaration washing over him. He had faced impossible tasks, solved problems no one else could, and outsmarted an entire military force. But he knew the real challenge lay ahead. "Are there more ships like you?" he asked, voice soft. "Yes," the ship said. "There are others, waiting for humans to notice them. But you are the first in centuries to awaken me. And that is why you matter." Eric stepped back, watching the holographic stars move past the viewport. For the first time in his life, he understood the scale of human potential. They were not merely survivors. They were explorers, innovators, and thinkers. Small humans, alone on a canyon planet, could change the fate of the galaxy. The ship pulsed again, lights bright and steady. "You must rest," it said. "You will need strength. The next steps will test humans in ways they have never been tested before. But remember this, you endure because you think. You survive because you adapt. You succeed because you never give up." Eric allowed himself a brief moment to sit. Exhaustion tugged at his limbs, but he felt a strange energy, a connection to the ship and the galaxy that filled him with purpose. He had stepped into a story far greater than himself, and he would not falter. Outside, the stars streaked past as the ship moved through the galaxy. Hidden worlds blinked awake, their presence marked by faint pulses of light. The map stretched endlessly, each point a challenge, a mystery, a promise. Eric realized that the galaxy was not empty. It had never been. Humans had forgotten it, yes, but now they would remember. Now they could awaken what had waited for them for millennia. The military forces that had pursued them would regroup. They would try again. But Eric was ready. And so was humanity. "Show me the next step," he said, standing tall. The ship pulsed, almost with a smile. "Very well. There is much to do. And you will lead the way. Humans are clever. Humans are persistent. And above all, humans are not afraid to step into the unknown. That is why you endure. That is why you will succeed." Eric felt a surge of pride. Not arrogance, not selfishness, but the pride of knowing that his small, careful habits, his attention to detail, and his willingness to act had made all the difference. Humans had the spark. Now, that spark could ignite the stars. The galaxy stretched before him, vast, mysterious, and alive. And for the first time in centuries, Eric felt not alone, but part of something eternal. Humans had begun to remember. And their story was just beginning. The stars streaked past a viewport. golden, silver, and pale blue lines moving in endless patterns. Eric Voss stood on the bridge of the ancient starship, his fingers brushing over the glowing console. Every system hummed in harmony, and yet he felt a tension in the air. The galaxy was wide, full of possibilities, but also full of dangers. The ship pulsed softly around him. "You have done well so far," the AI said. "But the real test is ahead. To reach the hidden colonies, to awaken what was forgotten, and to prepare humanity for what waits, you must make a leap of faith."
Eric nodded.
Faith had always been something he reserved for machines, for routines, for the certainty of physics. But now he realized that humanity itself was a leap of faith, trusting curiosity over caution, imagination over fear. "Show me," he said. The ship projected a map of the galaxy in 3 dimensions, highlighting clusters of hidden stars, cloaked planets, and lost colonies. At the edge of the projection, a dark anomaly pulsed. "That is the remnant," the ship explained. "It is a threat older than recorded history. It hunts humans not out of hatred, but out of fear. Fear of what humans can become. Many of our ancestors fought it and survived. Now it stirs again." Arik felt a shiver run through him. The galaxy had always been dangerous, but he had never imagined a force older than humanity itself lying in wait. Yet the ship's calm tone gave him courage. Humans had endured worse, and they had thrived. Outside, faint signals flashed on the ship's sensors. The military faction that had pursued them was regrouping. Ships, drones, and soldiers moved with precision, ready to capture or destroy. Eric realized that escaping was not enough. They had to fight, and fight in a way only humans could. "You will need to think creatively," the ship said. "The remnant responds to predictability. Humans are unpredictable. That is your advantage. You must use it." Eric leaned over the controls, scanning options. There were multiple escape routes, each with risks. Some paths led directly toward hidden colonies, but the remnant might detect them. Others were longer but safer. He had to combine speed with deception. He tapped a sequence into the navigation console. Holographic paths shifted, showing branching routes. "I'll use the ship's energy shields to create a false signature," he said aloud, more to himself than to the AI. "We'll look like a fleet heading in one direction while I take the real jump elsewhere." "Clever," the ship said. "Humans always find a way." Arik felt a surge of pride. Not arrogance, just clarity. This was what humans did best: adapt, improvise, and solve problems no one else could. Machines could follow routines. Aliens could follow patterns, but humans? Humans could invent the solution in the moment, see the impossible, and act. He activated the diversion. Energy flared around the hull. Holographic signatures bloomed like false stars, and sensor readings in the galaxy shifted. The pursuing military ships detected the diversion immediately. Officers cursed and sent drones to investigate, but it was too late. Arik pressed the final controls, initiating the jump to the hidden colonies. Light stretched into streams around the viewport. Stars became streaks. The ship vibrated with ancient energy, older than any human had seen. He felt it deep in his chest, a resonance, as if the ship itself acknowledged his courage. The jump ended in a cluster of vibrant stars, planets glowing with life, some showing signs of human settlements. These were the lost colonies the ship had promised, hidden for generations. The ship's sensors lit up with activity, recording every signal. "They remember," the ship said. "Humans have survived. They have endured. Now, they are ready to awaken." Arik stared at the colonies, feeling the magnitude of the moment. Humanity was not new. It was ancient, resilient, and clever. And now they had a guide, a protector, a bridge to reclaim what was lost. But there was no time for celebration. Signals from the remnant pulsed on the edge of the star system. Arik studied them carefully. They were massive, shifting like a dark cloud, sensing, calculating. A direct encounter would be catastrophic. They had to act, and act fast.
"I can use the colonies themselves," Eric said aloud. Their communication arrays, their satellites, everything in sync.
We can create a network, a pattern they cannot predict.
The ship pulsed as if approving. Exactly.
Humans do not fight with force alone. Humans fight with thought. And humans endure. Eric tapped commands, coordinating a complex sequence of energy pulses, communications bursts, and sensor signals. The colony's hidden systems activated in tandem, creating a web of interference, false signals, and decoys. The remnant sensors flailed, unable to predict human behavior. Outside, Eric saw a dark mass shift and hesitate. The ship's shields flared, then released a focused burst, creating a temporary corridor through which they could escape the remnant's attention. Eric took a deep breath. "We're not done yet," he said. "But this is our chance." The ship's AI responded with calm certainty. "Humans are clever. Humans endure. And you
Are human.
With renewed focus, Eric guided the ship through the hidden cluster, visiting planets that had been abandoned for generations. Some had lost all memory of their past. Others had preserved fragments, myths, and stories of humans who had vanished. Eric's presence, guided by the ship, was like a spark lighting a fire long dormant. He activated the colony networks one by one. Systems powered on, lights glowed. Communications hummed. Humans who thought they were alone in the galaxy now saw signals of their kin. Stories, history, and knowledge long forgotten began to flow again. This is incredible," Eric whispered. Where are we connecting humanity?" "Yes," the ship said, "and this is only the beginning. Your ingenuity, your courage, your persistence, these are the qualities that will shape the next era of humanity. You do not merely survive. You inspire. You create. You lead." Eric realized the weight of the statement. It was not about conquering worlds or winning battles. It was about human potential. Small humans, alone on distant planets, could change the course of civilizations. They could awaken a galaxy. Suddenly, a flash of light appeared on the sensors, a signal from the remnant, attempting to breach the defenses. Eric's heart raced. This was the final test. "You can outsmart it," the ship said. "Trust your instincts. Trust your mind."
Eric studied the patterns. The remnant was calculating, predictable in its unpredictability.
But humans could think in ways no machine could anticipate. He rerouted power through the colony's systems, creating a network of feedback loops and decoys. The pulses spread across the cluster, confusing the remnant sensors, forcing it to retreat momentarily. The ship pulsed with energy. "You have done what was necessary. Humans do not surrender. Humans endure, and humans overcome." Eric exhaled. The tension that had gripped him for weeks finally loosened. They had survived the military pursuit. They had eluded the remnant. For now. And more importantly, they had awakened a galaxy of humans who had been waiting, forgotten, but not gone. The ship's lights dimmed, a soft glow filling the bridge. "Eric Voss," it said. "The next chapter begins soon. But remember, humans are clever, humans endure, humans inspire. That is why you are here. That is why you have succeeded." Eric sat back, exhausted but exhilarated. For centuries, the galaxy had waited for humans to awaken. Now, they had begun. His small acts, checking an old ship, repairing circuits, trusting his instincts, had rippled across the stars, connecting lost colonies, rekindling hope, and outsmarting forces far larger than himself. He looked out at the stars, seeing the galaxy not as a void, but as a living web of possibility. Humanity had a place here, and they would not just survive. They would thrive, explore, and remember. "Thank you," he whispered, not to the ship, but to the generations of humans who had come before him. "Thank you for trusting me." The ship pulsed softly, lights flowing like a heartbeat. "The galaxy awaits," it said. And as Eric Voss watched, the hidden colonies blinked awake, one by one, sending messages across the stars. Humanity had begun its leap. Not just as survivors, not just as explorers, but as a species capable of greatness. The canyon planet, the lonely routine, the small human who once checked an abandoned starship weekly. None of it mattered now. Humans had remembered. The galaxy had awakened. And the story was only beginning. Eric smiled, feeling a connection to the stars, to humanity, and to the ship that had waited centuries for this moment. The universe was vast, full of challenges, but also full of possibilities. And humans would meet them all. The stars stretched endlessly ahead, and Eric Voss, the quiet watcher, was no longer alone. He was part of something eternal, humanity's journey among the stars.